Welcome to episode 6 of Graya TV. Over the past 5 years, we've learnt lots of do's and don'ts with regards to buying, selling. Over the past 5 years, we've learnt with regards to flipping homes, don'ts with regards to flipping homes. Hell, I can't speak. Welcome to episode 6 of Graya TV.
I couldn't even open my eyes there.
Lots of do's and don'ts when it comes to over the past few years when it comes to house flipping, and today we would like to share with you our tips and our tricks. We're going to cover areas such as site acquisition, planning and approvals, construction, design. Today we're going to share with you the tips and the tricks that we have learned. Let's go.
2,000 years later.
Welcome to episode 6 of Graya TV. Over the past 5 years, we've learned a lot when it comes to house flipping, and today we're going to share with you the tips and the tricks that we have learned. We're going to cover areas such as site acquisition, planning and approvals, design, construction, and sales and marketing. We hope you enjoy it.
So we're currently sitting in number 9 Bayswater Street in Paddington. So it's a commercial building that's been in our family for about 15 years. Rob's actually just finished doing a major renovation on it. So Rob can tell you a little bit about what he's done and what it is now.
So in the heart of Rosalie here, we were really badly flood affected in 2012. So the main reason for the renovation was to get it out of that flood area. And because of all the shops really close by, another major part was there was 3 car parks before, and we just needed more for this size building. It just didn't match up. So as well as doing the lift in the car parks, we thought about doing a renovation at the same time, and this is what it looks like now.
So at Graya Developments, we concentrate on doing high-end residential houses. That's sort of the area we focus on, and the particular suburbs are Paddington and Barton, which is in the west of Brisbane. They're sort of close to the city. They're pretty sought after, but we still feel that the sites are slightly undervalued. So to date, that's the only areas we've concentrated on, and we just think there's a lot of potential moving forward, and that's probably the areas we're going to stick to in the near future.
Yeah, the idea behind sitting in the high-end niche market in the inner city suburb is it really stacks up as far as the feasibility and a profit margin. Building beautiful houses on big acreage, 20 k's out of the city, it just doesn't quite stack up. So that's the sort of the niche that we enjoy. In the future, it's a huge passion of ours to also get into some multi-residential units, apartments, townhouses, obviously high-end as well. And that's something that we will get into eventually, but right now the plan is to sit in this niche market because it's really difficult to do. The market looks like it's going to be quite strong for a little while longer, whereas the units and multi-res stuff is slowly declining, which is good, and in a few years time when it's starting to rise back up, we're going to plan to ride that wave.
So probably the hardest part about the development process is the site acquisition. So there's always a lot of competition, especially in this area. For example, if you go to an auction, say on a Saturday, there could be 50, 100 people there, which makes it really tough, and you're always paying top dollar. So what's key for our strategy is to align with certain agents and try and get these off-market deals over the line. So we do a lot of work with Ben Wakely at Urban Property, and he's sort of given us a lot of sites over the years, and they've all been pretty successful, and in turn he sells our product for us. So that relationship is pretty key for us.
A lot of our purchases to this day have been off-market transactions. Up until now, the market's getting hotter, so it's quite harder these days. But a few years ago, that's all we were doing. We were selling, buying all off-market. There was a huge market that was, that no one had access to, which was really important to our formula.
So the standard rule of thumb with off-market purchases is if an agent brings you a site you'll give them the return sale once the product's finished. And that's fair enough because you're sort of getting ahead of the game. You get the first crack. You often don't have much time to work with a decision. Like
no competition.
Yeah, there's no competition. So generally you'll get a slightly cheaper price for the block, but you have to move fast. Like sometimes you only have 24 hours to make a decision, do all your due diligence, and then sign a contract. So it does add a bit of pressure, but if you can move quick and you're ready to go and you know your sort of suburbs and streets, then it's a lot better than sort of competing at auctions with another 50 to 100 buys.
Hi, my name's Ben Wakely from Urban Property Agents, and I've been selling in the Paddington area for 17 years. 5 years ago, a couple of young guys, Rob and Andrew Gray, asked me for a coffee down in Rosalie, and the rest is history. We've seen some great developments since then. The first was one in Normanby Street in Indooroopilly. The boys, I introduced them to a site there. It was probably about 5 days after we had a coffee. And that's where it all started, from Normanby Street in Indooroopilly. They didn't want to buy it, and I sort of forced them to buy it, and from there on the relationship and the builds have just gotten bigger and better. Over the last 5 years, the Graya boys have continually evolved, and every new project they've changed something on a house or on the property, and in respect to marketing, they've just gone to a whole new level, and they've got such a great product to back that up. It's even got people that weren't developing into the game, and it's also got people that sort of were a bit gun shy after the GFC back in and given them confidence and created a whole new level. And it's also set a bar for other builders to live up to, because if they're not living up to that standard, their product won't sell, or the property will just sit on the market for a long time. Another great thing we've noticed is the people that have bought, or I've sold properties to, sold Graya properties to, have just sung the praises of the boys and the post-build service that they've got, or when they're purchased. So they love living in their Graya homes, and so I'm sure there's many more owners out there that are waiting to get into a Graya property. Now you've heard enough from me, I'll hand you back to the real star of the show, Rob from Graya Constructions.
So there's an old saying in real estate, and it's always look for the worst house in the best street, and that's something we definitely take on board. Like some of the houses we've picked up have been hoarders' houses. They're just unlivable. They're absolutely terrible, which scares off a lot of buyers.
You're not leaving any money on the table if you're buying a really run-down house. We're coming in, we're doing major renovation. So if there's a half-nice bathroom that can be rented out, that house price is going to be worth more. A lot of the off-market sales is they're trying to rent it and they can't find someone because it's so crap. So that's where we come along, 24-hour offer, unconditional, and sometimes that's how you get the site.
Yeah. Because in the higher end suburbs, effectively you're just paying for the dirt, just the block of land. It doesn't matter what's on there. Most of the time, if you can, you'll try and get rid of a house. But if it's in a heritage sort of area and you can't, you have to work with the bones, then you'll do that. But it is more cost effective with the sort of houses that we do to just knock over and start from scratch.
So before firing the gun on a purchase, there's some key things that we have to check. Underground pipes are super important. In the suburb we work in Paddington, overland flooding is crucial. There's sections of Paddington which you would think are beautiful spots, and they are, but they're covered with pipes, they're covered with overland flow. So those are massive hurdles that you need to go to Brisbane City Council and check those things, and you've got a small window to do so.
So it's also important when you're negotiating, like most contracts, it's typically 30 to 60 day settlement. If you're sort of planning on doing a development for a resi house, we always try and push that out. If you can get 90 days or 120 days, that's extra time you can spend planning, talking to your architects, getting the design done, you can actually get everything approved. So as soon as that settlement date happens, you jump in and start construction, and it just saves a lot on your holding costs. It's a lot more beneficial, there's no dead time, because sometimes you can get stuck waiting for approvals and planning for sort of 3 to 6 months, and they're just extra carrying costs you don't need to hold if you plan ahead and you're on top of your game.
But in saying that, some buyers are like, it has to be 30 days. If you want to get the deal, you just factor in the 2 months of interest. A lot of our developments are loans, so we have to factor that into the sale price. You know, it might add $5,000-$10,000, but we just factor that in. And you know, then we do like to start building the day we own it. Therefore, you can turn over the house as quick as possible. There's less risk that way because there's no chance of the market moving. Yeah,
it's typically all about cash flow. So the sooner we can get in there and get building, the sooner we can wrap it up and sell it and get that money coming back in. Because without the cash flow, it slows down all your projects. So that's one key area for us.
So if you're starting again at a young age, what I'd highly recommend is you talk to a broker. Don't just go to the bank that you bank with and ask for a loan, because that's just one option. A broker will go to multiple banks. They will choose the bank which is most suitable for the development or the house you're trying to buy. And someone that I'd highly recommend in that area is George Samios from Mad Loans. So once we've acquired our site, a part of our most recent business plan is to engage high-end architects. Years ago, I would sit there and I'd draw my own houses, and plenty of the houses that we finished only a year or two ago that don't have architects attached to it, we literally drew ourselves. We've chosen every finish in nearly every single one of our houses as well. But now, a part of the formula is to engage high-end architects. So we like to use a different person each time if we can. We do have our favourites, of course, but we do like to collect ideas from different people, because we have a passion for it, and we actually like what each person does. We don't want to build the same house over and over. And when designing a house, a general rule of thumb, it really depends on the way your block's facing, the slope of your side, whether it's flat. But general rule of thumb, a simple formula for a nice house would be your living should be on the lower level, even if it's got a view. And I didn't do that in my house, but you should do it on the lower level. You should have a connection to outside and your pool, so it's family friendly. Upstairs, you should have your kids' rooms on one side of the house, a living room in the middle, and your master bedroom on the other side of that. Living room in the middle, or a void or something like that, gives you that segregation of living. And if your footprint's big enough, you can also have a guest bedroom or a home office or a granny flat style side entry on the lower level. That also adds a lot of value to your house.
And I think we're constantly following new architects, new interior designers on Instagram, on all the socials, and we're constantly just sending back and forth between each other. What about this idea? How about this finish? And that's just a really good place to start sort of getting ideas of what sort of materials you want to use, how you want to build your house.
I've actually got a funny story. Andrew building his house. All he does is send me these Pinterest photos. He reminds me of a client. I'm like, mate, you got to actually find out where you buy this and get quotes for it. Don't just send me some place from Scandinavia and think I can just,
Thought that was your job.
So I guess we've been working with Graya now for a number of years, and done quite a number of projects with them. And over that time, developing a trust and a relationship, we've been able to sort of extend our ideas and really develop our ideas in some of his projects. And so when Rob called me and said he had this site at Mahara and did I want to have a look at it, of course we absolutely jumped at the chance. We came around here and had a bit of a walk of the site and discussed some ideas, and I immediately saw opportunity for a fantastic house. I think all the bones of the type of site, the size of the site, its aspect and orientation are exactly the sort of thing to create the opportunities to develop a really great house. And we've tended to start extending ourselves on these houses now. We've got to know each other, and I know what Rob likes, and I know that he wants to push the boundaries. So it gives us a real freedom that sometimes we don't have. So we've been able to break the shackles on some of these projects, and it's just a fantastic opportunity to be able to showcase some of our work with Graya Constructions to give people the opportunity to come and buy these houses. I think you know, anyone who owns one of these houses would be immensely proud. And I'm also enjoying working with Rob and Andrew on their own houses at the moment. So I think it's going to be it's a really strong relationship, and I think it's developing some really great product.
A couple of years ago we did our first actual splitter block, and with that project we learned a lot of lessons. One thing that I took out of that is that I'd never use the same architect for both houses. Just the problem with that is they both look exactly the same, and when you're trying to sell them, the buyers are looking and they want something individual, something that's their dream home. They don't want the identical thing sitting right next to it. So with the project we've got coming up on Rockbourne Terrace, we've got a bigger splitter block there, and we've used two different sort of high-end architects, both completely different styles. One's more of a sort of a Hamptons traditional feel, and then one's super ultra modern.
It's a Hamptons traditional feel, but has a really architectural edge to it. But they're both super unique. But on that note, if you are going to do a subdivide, whether it's same architect or two different architects, very important that you are selling the better one first. A lot of people have different methods of reasons of why they think which one first, but it's pretty obvious to me that you want to sell your biggest one first, your biggest and best one first, because you're going to get the most chance of a high price. And then the second one is you can push to go a little bit higher than that. You know, you don't want to sell your cheap one first, then you've got to explain to everyone why the next one is better, and you know, justify why you want more.
It's important when you're setting your budgets to know exactly what you want to spend, and then it's even more important to know which areas are key to get those returns when you sell it. So areas we always focus on would have to be the kitchen's an obvious one, that's a big one. So your kitchen, your entertaining area, that's sort of the area people, when they walk in, they'll sort of think about their family being there, their friends coming over, how they're going to entertain guests, that side of things. So always good to spend a bit more money on your kitchen, and then your master bedroom, because that's where you're going to
That's the buyer.
That's the buyers. They're going to be in the master bedroom. So those two areas is what we sort of focus on to spend a bit more cash on. And then the other areas like the kids' bedrooms, your guest bedroom,
Not as important.
Not as important. Your second sort of living area, you can sort of try and save a bit of money in those areas, because that's not going to get you your resale. Like, it's not essential.
Whatever dollar you spend in any development, you just want to get two back, or not so much two, but you want to get more. If you're spending the dollar and you're not getting that back, then that's the things you should cut back on, really. And you just got to decipher what those are. So when you've finished your build or selling any house, really, it's super important that you're using the best agent possible. If you're not, you're really shorting yourself money at the end of the day. So all you got to do is simple search on realestate.com. Everyone has access to it. You go sold, you pick your suburb, you choose your price bracket. You just look back years, and you just try and if you have access to RP data and things like that, price finder, you just find someone who's sold most things like your house for the highest price. Obviously interview a couple, see who you have a nice feel with. Obviously you want someone honest, who's not too busy, relatable to you, and that will be the best investment for your investment.
You don't always want to go for the biggest brand agent, because they might have a lot of properties on their books and can't give your property the attention to detail.
Or have their lecky coming and doing all the work and negotiating for you. You want them to be negotiating for you.
Yeah, you need to find someone that's got a good fit, that can sell your house, put the time and effort into it, and really get you that return you're looking for.
Coming soon on Graya TV.